Hello YouTube friends, it's Logan Albright here, back with another book review for you. Today I want to talk about Saul Bellow's 1970 novel, Mr. Sammler's Planet. This is my second Saul Bellow novel that I've read. The first one was Humboldt's Gift, which I wasn't too crazy about. It's not a style of novel that is really appealing to me. I've said before in this channel many times that I much more prefer kind of romantic literature with big characters where a lot of things happen, and modernist literature where things are a lot more down to earth is less appealing to me. But I'm trying to approach these books with an open mind because I do have the Library of America edition here with 3 novels in it, and I might as well finish them, right? And I actually enjoyed Mr. Sammler's Planet quite a bit more than I enjoyed Humboldt's Gift, and maybe it's because I have a different frame of mind, or maybe it's because it's a better novel. Saul Bellow himself said it was his favorite novel, so maybe there's something in that. The story is basically about a 70-year-old Jewish intellectual named Mr. Artur Sammler, who's a Holocaust survivor living in New York City, and his circle of friends and relatives that are around him. The book does a really good job of painting a picture of what Manhattan is like, what New York is like. I think Bellow has a really good kind of ear for the surroundings of New York and really kind of evoking that city because it's such a distinctive city. And if you've been there or you've spent time there, you'll know he really captures the feel there. And I'd say the book is not so much a linear story as it is a collection of themes. I mean, it does have a linear sequence of events in the sense that it doesn't jump around in time, but it's not really about what happens. It's about the themes in the novel. And I'm kind of struggling to figure out what I would say the novel is about, but I definitely picked up different themes. And one of the major themes in it is about kind of theft and being wrapped up in your own affairs. Early in the book, Mr. Sammler has an altercation with a pickpocket on a bus, and he's kind of concerned about it and worried about it, and he calls the police, and the police aren't going to do anything, and he seems very bothered by the pickpocket. And then it turns out that all of his family members are basically engaging in really minor, petty forms of little theft. And it's sort of a parallel there between sort of the unself-conscious criminality of the pickpocket on the street and sort of the rationalizations and the justifications that the family members give for their little petty acts of theft and how they think it's okay. And, you know, like, well, this is different. I'm not a thief, but this is something I had to do. I'm doing it for someone else's benefit. They always rationalize it and find some way of trying to make it seem like it's okay in their case. So that's something I picked up on. He's got a friend who's in the hospital who's dying, and he keeps trying to go see his friend, and he keeps getting distracted and interrupted by these annoying family members. And this is sort of where the comedy of the book comes in. On the jacket of the book, it describes the book as a comedy and is funny. If that's the case, it's extremely dry in terms of humor. It's certainly not laugh out loud funny, but there is a certain absurdity to it that I can see you can be picked up on. And all those annoying family members that won't leave him alone are all kind of wrapped up in their own affairs, and they don't care about the friend who's dying. They only care about it as it affects them in terms of inheritance or in terms of their demands on their time. He's trying to reason with some of his relatives to say you need to reconcile with the man before he dies, and they're like, that offends my pride. How dare you? And it's all about what's going on in their little petty world instead of the grander picture or the more serious issue of a man's life being at stake. And no one really seems to get that besides Artur Sammler. So he's sort of the only sane man, the voice of reason in this book. There's also, I'm thinking about the title, Mr. Sammler's Planet, and this came out in 1970. There's sort of a science fiction tie-in here a little bit. He was, the main character, Sammler, was friends with H.G. Wells as a child or as a young man. And his daughter keeps wanting him to write a memoir about H.G. Wells, and she procures this manuscript for him about the moon and thinks it'll be useful for his memoir about H.G. Wells, but he doesn't really care. He's not that interested in it. And there's this kind of tension, I think, this is another theme I picked up on, between looking backwards at the past, writing a memoir, thinking about the people you used to hang out with, and the future, whereas moon exploration, the manuscript he gets is entitled The Future of the Moon. So there's this kind of past and future tension where no one wants to live in the present. Everyone wants to either think about the past or think about the future. And that seems to be another recurring theme of the book. The author, Bellow, is pretty hard on women in this book. He's pretty hard on black people in this book as well. The pickpocket in the early scene that I mentioned is black, and he kind of goes after black people a little bit in that, and he goes after women quite a lot for their what he describes as their kind of fickleness or capriciousness and inability to take things seriously. So if you're offended by that sort of thing, you're probably not going to like the book. I found it a little bit surprising given that it's only from 1970. It's not like a 19th century book. It's not that long ago that this book was written, but it's certainly, he doesn't shy away from kind of expressing opinions about different genders and different races, about his kind of prejudicial thoughts on those things, which I was okay with. But, I can understand why people would be upset by that. You have to understand the book from the perspective of the narrator, who's a 70-year-old man from Europe. He's not a modern young person. So I think that's interesting. But overall, I found the book enjoyable. I found the themes certainly interesting, although I don't know if I really picked up on all of them or got exactly what the author was trying to get me to get out of it. But it was a very vivid picture of the life of an intellectual in New York and having to deal with all these annoying relations who are just not interested in the things that really matter and who are very petty and absorbed in their own affairs. So that's really what I got out of it. It's not a very long book. The edition I have was about 250 pages. I got through it pretty quickly. I do want to read the last one in this collection, which is called The Dean's December, and see what I think of that one in comparison to the other two. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts if you've read it. If you have any more insight into the themes than I have, I'd love to hear it. I think that Bellow has a real good way with words. There's a lot of passages in here that I thought were quite beautiful and quite evocative. He's definitely a talented writer, and he was a Pulitzer Prize winner, so it makes sense that he would be good. And I've always wanted to kind of explore his work, and now I'm starting to do that in a little bit more depth after a slight disappointment in Humboldt's Gift going on. I guess his most famous novel is Herzog, which I haven't read and don't have a copy of yet, but maybe I'll get to it one of these days. So that's my latest read. Saul Bellow's Mr. Sammler's Planet. I thought it was quite interesting. Not my favorite style of book, but it's certainly something I want to branch out into and learn more about. So I'd be interested in your thoughts. Please post them in the comments down below and I will reply. And until next time, I'll catch you later. I've been Logan Albright. Thanks for watching.